So often, we think that love and connection are about finding the right person or having the perfect circumstances. But the truth is far more nuanced. The secret that most people overlook, the heartbeat of every truly happy relationship, is vulnerability. Vulnerability is the raw, unfiltered courage to be seen as you really are, without masks or pretenses. It's the willingness to expose the parts of yourself that you've hidden away for fear of judgment, rejection, or abandonment. And here's the thing, vulnerability is terrifying. It shakes us to our core because it demands that we risk not being enough. It asks us to step into the unknown without guarantees. But it is precisely this act of stepping into the unknown that creates intimacy. Think about it. When was the last time you let someone truly see your imperfections, your insecurities, the things that keep you awake at night? Most of us have spent our lives learning to armor ourselves against pain. We hide behind bravado, sarcasm, humor, or distraction. We tell ourselves that showing weakness is dangerous, that it will push people away. And yet, ironically, those very defenses are what create distance in our relationships. When we refuse to be vulnerable, we communicate, even if unintentionally, that we cannot be trusted with intimacy. We keep our partners at arm's length without even realizing it. But here's what is beautiful and radical about vulnerability. It is not a weakness. It is courage. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, trust, and genuine connection. It is the thing that allows two people to truly see each other beyond the curated versions of themselves. It is the small, trembling courage to say, "I don't know how to do this," or "I'm scared," or "I need you right now." It is the willingness to admit that you are imperfect, that you are human, and that you are not afraid to be fully known. And the astonishing thing is that when we allow ourselves to be seen, we invite our partner to do the same. Vulnerability is contagious in the best possible way. I want you to imagine a moment when you were truly vulnerable with someone you loved. Maybe it was a quiet confession late at night, a tearful admission of fear, or a candid expression of need. Remember how it felt before you spoke. The nervousness, the heart racing, the fear that your words might push the person away. And then remember the moment afterward, when your partner responded with care, with understanding, with presence. That is the magic of vulnerability. It transforms fear into connection, isolation into intimacy. It allows you to experience the relief of being fully seen and fully accepted, flaws and all. Yet, despite this, so many of us hesitate to be vulnerable. We hold back because we've been hurt before. We fear that if we expose our true selves, we will be rejected or abandoned. We fear that our needs might be too much, our emotions too intense, or our insecurities too heavy. And these fears are valid. They are born from past pain, but they also keep us trapped in a cycle of emotional distance. Every relationship that matters will at some point test your capacity for vulnerability. Every meaningful connection requires that you step into the discomfort of being seen. There is no shortcut. There is no substitute for the courage to be authentic. Happiness in a relationship does not come from avoiding vulnerability. It comes from embracing it. It comes from realizing that the person who loves you is not asking you to be perfect. They are asking you to be present. They want to see you in your entirety, to witness your humanity, to experience the depth of your heart. And here's another secret: the very act of being vulnerable deepens love. It builds trust because trust is not blind faith. It is the daily practice of showing up and being seen, and knowing that your partner will meet you with care. It is the accumulation of countless small moments of courage that solidify the bond between two people. Consider this: vulnerability is not just about big, dramatic confessions or sweeping declarations of love. Often, it is found in the small, seemingly insignificant moments. The admission of a mistake, the gentle asking for help, the quiet acknowledgement of fear or sadness. These everyday acts of courage create a foundation of emotional safety. They tell your partner, "I trust you with my heart. I trust you to be here with me, even when it's uncomfortable." And when both people in a relationship practice this, the connection becomes resilient. It can weather disagreements, misunderstandings, and life's inevitable challenges because it is rooted in authenticity rather than pretense. Now, let's be honest, practicing vulnerability is not easy. It requires self-awareness, emotional literacy, and a willingness to confront your own fears. It requires patience, because not every attempt will be met with understanding. Sometimes we reveal ourselves and encounter judgment or misunderstanding. And yet, even in those moments, vulnerability is still the path forward. Because when we retreat into armor, we may avoid short-term pain, but we also miss the long-term rewards of intimacy. Vulnerability asks us to risk discomfort for the sake of connection, to step into the unknown with courage and faith that love is stronger than fear. So, if there is one truth I want you to carry with you today, it is this: your willingness to be vulnerable is the most powerful gift you can give to a relationship. It is the heartbeat of connection. It is the secret to happiness. And it is available to you right now in this moment with the person you love. You do not need to wait until circumstances are perfect. You do not need to wait until you feel fully ready. You simply need to take the first courageous step, to speak your truth, to show your heart, to invite your partner into the fullness of who you are. Because at the end of the day, love is not built on perfection or certainty. It is built on courage, empathy, and the willingness to be fully seen. And when you embrace vulnerability, you create a relationship where both people can flourish, grow, and experience the profound joy of being known and loved exactly as they are. That is the heartbeat of a happy relationship. That is the secret that will transform the way you connect, not just with your partner, but with yourself. Boundaries. The word alone often conjures up images of walls, barriers, or limitations. And if we are honest, many of us have been taught to fear them. We have been told that setting boundaries will push people away, that saying no is selfish, that prioritizing our own needs is somehow a betrayal of love. But the truth is, boundaries are not walls. They are the foundation of respect, trust, and sustainable intimacy. They are the protective structures that allow love to thrive rather than suffocate. Without boundaries, even the deepest love can become fragile, drained, or distorted. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you said yes to something you didn't want to do, simply because you feared disappointing your partner? How many times have you ignored your own emotional needs to avoid conflict or maintain the appearance of harmony? In those moments, even though love may exist, it is being depleted rather than nourished. Resentment quietly seeps in, and what was once a source of joy begins to feel like obligation. Boundaries, when established thoughtfully and compassionately, protect both individuals. They prevent the erosion of self, and they create space for authentic connection. Boundaries are not about selfishness. They are about clarity. They communicate to your partner and to yourself what you can and cannot give, what you need to feel safe, and what you require to thrive. Setting boundaries is an act of honesty. It says, I respect myself enough to define my limits, and I respect you enough to be clear about them. When you establish these parameters, you are not closing the door on intimacy. You are opening the door to deeper understanding. You are teaching your partner how to love you well, and in turn, you are showing that you are willing to love them well in return. And here's a subtle but crucial truth: boundaries are not static. They evolve as people and relationships evolve. What feels acceptable at the beginning of a relationship may shift over time as trust deepens and life circumstances change. Healthy couples understand this. They revisit, renegotiate, and respect boundaries, not as rigid rules, but as living agreements that honor growth and mutual well-being. This flexibility is what makes boundaries a tool for connection rather than control. They are not a list of restrictions. They are an ongoing dialogue of care. Let me share a simple illustration. Imagine a couple where one partner feels emotionally drained after social gatherings, while the other thrives on external interactions. Without boundaries, the drained partner may feel compelled to attend every event, sacrificing their energy and growing resentful. But with clear, compassionate boundaries, they can express their limits. I need to recharge tonight, and I would love to join you tomorrow. This honest communication doesn't create distance. It fosters understanding. It allows both partners to honor their needs while remaining connected. The presence of boundaries prevents the silent build-up of frustration, and it creates a culture of respect that strengthens the relationship. Boundaries are also deeply intertwined with self-worth. When you establish limits, you send a clear message to yourself: my needs matter, my feelings matter, my time matters. This internal validation is essential because we cannot give to others from an empty cup. We often believe that love means self-sacrifice to the point of depletion, but true love demands balance. You cannot nurture another person effectively if you have abandoned yourself in the process. Boundaries are the safeguard that allows generosity to flow without eroding the self. Moreover, boundaries are an expression of courage. It takes courage to say no when it might upset someone you love. It takes courage to define your limits when fear whispers that you might be rejected. And it takes courage to hold firm when pressure, guilt, or manipulation arise. But here's the paradox: the more courage you show in defining your boundaries, the more respect, trust, and intimacy you create. People respond to clarity. They respond to honesty. They respond to the confidence of someone who knows who they are and what they need. And relationships that are built on this clarity are far stronger, far more resilient than those built on compromise alone. Boundaries also teach compassion, not just toward oneself, but toward one's partner. When you are clear about your limits, you allow your partner to be human too. You model self-respect, which invites them to honor their own needs. And in this shared practice, both individuals learn to engage in love that is not possessive or conditional, but grounded in mutual understanding and respect. The paradox here is beautiful. The very thing that people fear, setting limits, becomes the vessel through which deeper connection flows. It's important to remember that boundaries are not a single conversation or a one-time declaration. They are a practice, a daily commitment to honesty and self-care. They require mindfulness, self-reflection, and sometimes negotiation. They may be uncomfortable at first. Your partner may test them. You may even question yourself. But each act of boundary setting strengthens the foundation of your relationship. It shows that love does not demand self-erasure. It shows that intimacy is most profound when two people are whole, present, and willing to communicate their needs with clarity and compassion. So, if there is one essential truth I want to leave you with about happy relationships, it is this: boundaries are not limitations. They are liberation. They free you from resentment, exhaustion, and silent frustration. They allow love to flourish in its healthiest, most authentic form. They are the silent pillars that support trust, safety, and deep connection. By embracing boundaries, you honor yourself, honor your partner, and create a relationship that is sustainable, joyful, and profoundly intimate. Because at the heart of every thriving relationship is a balance, the courage to protect your own soul while fully engaging with another. The courage to say no when necessary and yes when it aligns with your truth. The courage to define your limits without fear of losing love, because the love that endures is one that respects, honors, and grows alongside both people. Boundaries, my friends, are not just practical, they are sacred. And they are one of the most overlooked yet powerful secrets to a happy, thriving relationship. Empathy is one of the most misunderstood and underutilized tools in relationships. Many people confuse empathy with sympathy or think that listening and nodding is enough to be empathetic. But true empathy goes far deeper. It is the courageous act of entering another person's emotional world without judgment, without fixing, without minimizing their experience. Empathy is not a quick response. It is a practice of presence. It is the willingness to lean in, to say, I see you, I hear you, I feel with you, and to resist the urge to offer solutions before understanding. In happy, thriving relationships, empathy is not optional. It is essential. Think about how often we default to problem-solving instead of truly listening. When our partner shares their pain, our first instinct is often to fix it, to offer advice, or to rationalize. We say things like, "It's not that bad," or "You'll get over it," or "Here's what you should do." And while these words may come from a place of care, they often have the opposite effect. They create distance. They unintentionally tell our partner, "I can't hold your pain. I can't sit with your vulnerability. I need to change it to feel comfortable." Empathy, in contrast, communicates exactly the opposite. "I can bear this with you. I can be present in your discomfort. You are not alone." Empathy requires courage because it is uncomfortable. It demands that we put aside our own judgments, our own experiences, and sometimes even our own emotions to fully engage with another human being. When your partner is struggling, it can trigger your own fears, insecurities, or past pain. And yet, the act of empathy is choosing to step into that discomfort willingly. It is saying, "I will be here. I will not turn away even if it's hard, even if it stirs something in me that I'd rather avoid. This is where connection deepens, because love is not about avoiding pain, love is about embracing it together. One of the most powerful truths about empathy is that it builds trust. When you consistently show your partner that you can sit with their feelings without judgment, they begin to feel safe. They begin to trust that they can be honest, vulnerable, and human without fear of rejection or criticism. Trust is the invisible thread that binds relationships, and empathy is the needle that weaves it. Couples who master the art of empathy create a container in which love can grow unhindered. They learn that disagreements do not have to escalate into conflict, and that emotional intimacy is strengthened, not threatened, by sharing feelings openly. Empathy is also about validation. Many of us grew up in environments where our emotions were dismissed or belittled. Perhaps someone said, "Stop crying, it's not a big deal," or "Why are you so sensitive?" As adults, we carry these wounds into our relationships, sometimes unconsciously. But when we practice empathy, we validate our partner's experience, even if it doesn't match our own perspective. We acknowledge, "I see that this matters to you. I understand that it feels real and significant." Validation is not about agreement. It's about honoring the reality of someone else's experience. And when someone feels truly seen, their heart opens in ways that words alone cannot achieve. Let's be clear, empathy is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. It is not always intuitive, especially when emotions are intense. It can be exhausting at times because it asks us to lean in rather than retreat. It asks us to stay present rather than seek escape. But the rewards are extraordinary. Empathy transforms relationships from transactional interactions into soulful connections. It turns moments of pain into opportunities for intimacy. It shifts the dynamic from isolation to shared humanity. Consider a scenario. Your partner comes home after a difficult day at work, visibly upset. You might be tempted to offer solutions immediately. "Why don't you just do this?" Or, "Next time, try that." But empathy invites you to pause, to notice their body language, the tremor in their voice, the tightness in their shoulders. To ask, "Do you want me to listen? Or are you looking for advice?" And then, above all, to listen. Truly listen, without interrupt judgment, without rushing toward resolution. To sit in the tension and let them feel heard. That is empathy, that is love in action. Empathy also deepens emotional intimacy because it requires humility. It reminds us that our perspective is not the only one that matters. It teaches us to step out of our assumptions, our narratives, and our need to be right. In a relationship, we are often tempted to insist that our view of a situation is the correct one. But empathy calls us to suspend judgment and enter our partner's experience on their terms. It is a radical act of respect and trust. It acknowledges that their feelings are valid simply because they exist, and that being present with them is more important than winning an argument or asserting control. Finally, empathy nurtures resilience in a relationship. Life is full of challenges, loss, disappointment, stress, and uncertainty. A couple that practices empathy regularly can face these challenges together, anchored in understanding and mutual care. They know that hardships do not have to fracture their bond. Instead, difficulties become opportunities to strengthen it. They learn that love is not only about joy and laughter, but also about sitting together in moments of struggle, holding space for each other with unwavering presence. So, if there is one lesson I want you to take away, it is this: empathy is the superpower of happy relationships. It is the skill that allows love to endure, trust to deepen, and intimacy to flourish. It is not passive, it is active, courageous, and deliberate. It is about listening without judgment, validating without needing to fix, and staying present even when it is uncomfortable. When you practice empathy, you transform ordinary interactions into profound opportunities for connection. You tell your partner without words, "I see you. I hear you. You are not alone." And that, my friends, is one of the greatest gifts you can offer in any relationship. Gratitude and appreciation are often underestimated in relationships, yet they are some of the most transformative practices you can cultivate. We live in a world that conditions us to focus on what is missing, on what could be better, on what frustrates us about our partner. It's easy to get caught in a loop of noticing faults and shortcomings because our brains are wired to detect problems. It's a survival mechanism. But when we allow this tendency to dominate our relationships, we start to overlook the countless small gestures, the quiet moments of care, and the daily acts of love that often go unnoticed. Cultivating gratitude is about intentionally shifting our focus from scarcity to abundance, from complaint to recognition, from taking for granted to truly seeing. Imagine for a moment waking up next to the person you love and noticing all the little ways they make your life better. How they brew your coffee just the way you like it, how they leave a small note in your bag, or how they smile at you with genuine warmth at the end of a long day. These moments are fleeting, subtle, and often invisible if we don't pay attention. But when we deliberately acknowledge them, we infuse our relationships with warmth, connection, and affirmation. Gratitude is not just a nice feeling. It is a practice that rewires our brains to notice goodness and abundance, rather than focusing solely on what is lacking. Appreciation, in particular, is the currency of emotional intimacy. It is the act of saying, "I see you. I notice your effort. I value what you bring to my life." And it does not have to be grandiose or ceremonial. A simple, heartfelt "thank you" can be profoundly powerful. Thank you for listening when I needed to talk. Thank you for supporting me in ways you may not even realize. Thank you for being patient, for being kind, for showing up. These words, when said sincerely and frequently, carry enormous weight. They remind your partner that they are seen, that their presence matters, that their love is not taken for granted. Gratitude in a relationship is also deeply countercultural. We are conditioned to think that love should be automatic, effortless, and constant. But the reality is that love is a practice and it requires attention. Relationships require daily acts of acknowledgement, recognition, and affirmation to thrive. Without these acts, even the deepest love can erode into routine, complacency, or indifference. When we practice gratitude intentionally, we resist the cultural pull toward entitlement and expectation. We remind ourselves and our partners that love is a choice and that it must be nourished continually. Consider the science behind it for a moment. Studies show that couples who regularly express gratitude toward each other experience higher levels of satisfaction, more trust, and stronger emotional bonds. When one partner notices and appreciates the small efforts of the other, it triggers a feedback loop of generosity and kindness. Gratitude begets connection, and connection begets gratitude. It is a cycle that strengthens the emotional fabric of a relationship. When both partners engage in this practice consistently, the relationship becomes resilient to stress, misunderstandings, and inevitable conflicts. One of the most powerful aspects of gratitude is that it invites mindfulness into a relationship. It asks us to slow down, to pay attention, to savor the moments that often pass unnoticed. It transforms ordinary routines into sacred rituals of recognition. For example, sharing a simple moment of appreciation over breakfast, or sending a text acknowledging a small but meaningful act, is a way of saying, "I see you. I value you. You make my life better." Over time, these small, repeated gestures accumulate into a profound reservoir of warmth and connection. Appreciation is also an antidote to resentment. Resentment often builds quietly when we focus on what is missing or when we feel unrecognized for our efforts. It creeps into relationships when we take each other for granted, assuming that love and care are automatic rather than intentional. Gratitude interrupts this cycle. When we make a conscious effort to notice, acknowledge, and thank our partner, we cultivate a climate of positivity, warmth, and mutual respect. It shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to celebration. Another essential truth is that gratitude is contagious. When you express genuine appreciation, your partner is more likely to respond in kind. It creates a culture of recognition within the relationship. You begin to notice not just your partner's acts, but also your own capacity to give, to care, and to acknowledge. It teaches both individuals to lean into positivity rather than negativity, to celebrate rather than criticize, to build rather than tear down. And in doing so, it nurtures a relationship that is emotionally rich, deeply connected, and profoundly satisfying. Gratitude is also deeply humbling. It reminds us that we are not entitled to love or attention. It reminds us to value the presence of another human being in our lives. By expressing appreciation, we acknowledge that love is a gift, not an expectation. This humility fosters deeper respect, more patience, and a willingness to show up fully, When both partners embrace gratitude, the relationship becomes a partnership rather than a transaction. It becomes a shared journey of noticing, valuing, and celebrating each other continuously. Finally, gratitude is an emotional anchor in times of difficulty. Life will inevitably bring stress, conflict, disappointment, or challenges. During these moments, the practice of gratitude reminds couples of the deep foundation of their love. Remembering what you value, what you appreciate, and why you are committed to each other provides perspective, patience, and emotional resilience. Gratitude is not just a positive emotion. It is a stabilizing force that sustains relationships through both joy and adversity. So, if there is one lesson I want you to carry from this keynote, it is this: gratitude and appreciation are not optional in a happy relationship. They are essential. They transform the mundane into meaningful, the overlooked into celebrated, and the ordinary into extraordinary. They require intention, mindfulness, and courage, because it is all too easy to take love for granted. But when you consistently practice noticing, acknowledging, and thanking your partner, you cultivate a relationship that is emotionally vibrant, deeply connected, and profoundly satisfying. Gratitude, my friends, is not just an act. It is a daily practice, a choice, and a secret to sustaining the kind of love that thrives over time. Commitment. It's a word that carries weight, history, and sometimes even fear. In relationships, commitment is often misunderstood as mere staying power, simply being present or not walking away. But true commitment is far more profound. It is a conscious, courageous choice to show up fully, day after day, even when life is messy, unpredictable, and challenging. It is not blind loyalty or blind endurance. It is an active, ongoing practice of love, patience, and resilience. Commitment is what transforms fleeting connection into lasting intimacy and ordinary partnerships into thriving, deeply fulfilling relationships. Think about it: love in its raw, human form is never perfect. Relationships are messy. They are complicated. They are a blend of joy, disappointment, misunderstanding, hope, frustration, and growth. Many people expect commitment to mean that everything will feel effortless, smooth, or constant, but that is simply not reality. Commitment means that you are willing to weather the storms together. It is the promise to engage, to communicate, and to grow alongside your partner, rather than walking away at the first sign of discomfort. It is saying, I choose you, even when it's hard. I choose you, even when I'm afraid. I choose you, even when life feels uncertain. One of the most overlooked aspects of commitment is its role in personal growth. A happy, thriving relationship is not just about two people coexisting. It is about two people evolving individually and together. Commitment is not passive. It requires ongoing attention to self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and mutual understanding. It requires the courage to face your own shortcomings, to apologize sincerely when you have hurt your partner, and to accept their imperfections with grace. It is about embracing growth as a shared journey, recognizing that change is inevitable, and seeing it as an opportunity to deepen love rather than a threat to it. Consider the power of commitment in the face of conflict. Disagreements are inevitable in any relationship, and how we respond to them determines the health of the bond. Commitment asks us to stay engaged rather than retreat. It asks us to listen when it's uncomfortable, to respond rather than react, to seek understanding rather than insist on being right. When both partners are committed, conflict becomes a space for learning and connection rather than division. It becomes an opportunity to practice empathy, patience, and forgiveness. Commitment is what transforms conflict from a potential fracture into a chance for deepening intimacy. Another vital aspect of commitment is endurance. The willingness to persist through life's challenges, whether they are external pressures, personal struggles, or relational difficulties. Life will inevitably test the bonds of love, and in those moments, the depth of commitment reveals itself. It is easy to love when circumstances are favorable, but true commitment is loving when it's hard, loving when fear or anger arises, loving when disappointment threatens to erode connection. It is a conscious choice to nurture the relationship through thick and thin, recognizing that love is a verb, a series of intentional actions, not just a feeling. Commitment also requires courage to confront vulnerability. To stay committed, we must be willing to be seen fully, to admit mistakes, to ask for help, and to express our needs openly. Commitment without vulnerability is superficial. It is compliance without connection. True commitment thrives when both partners embrace their humanity, acknowledging that neither is perfect and both are worthy of love. It is in these moments of shared vulnerability that trust is reinforced, emotional intimacy deepens, and the relationship gains resilience. Forgiveness is another cornerstone of commitment. Every relationship will face moments of hurt. Moments when one partner fails to meet the other's expectations, when words are said in anger, or when mistakes are made. Commitment is the willingness to forgive, not to excuse behavior, but to preserve the bond and continue building together. It is an understanding that no one is perfect, that love is messy, and that holding on to resentment only erodes connection. Forgiveness is not easy, but it is a powerful expression of commitment, a daily decision to prioritize the relationship over the ego, the pain or the fleeting impulse to give up. Commitment also extends to celebrating growth, joy, and triumphs together. It is not only about staying during difficult times, it is about showing up fully in the moments of happiness, achievement, and connection. It is about cheering each other on, acknowledging accomplishments, and sharing in the joy of life's victories, big and small. Commitment is holistic. It encompasses both the light and the dark, weaving them into a shared narrative that strengthens the bond between partners. Finally, the essence of commitment lies in conscious choice. It is not something that should be taken for granted or assumed. It requires daily recommitment, a decision to love actively, to communicate intentionally, to listen deeply, and to invest emotionally. Commitment is the force that transforms ordinary love into extraordinary love, the glue that binds hearts together through uncertainty, growth, and change. When two people fully embrace commitment, they create a relationship that is resilient, joyful, and enduring, a relationship where love is not merely experienced but continuously cultivated. So, if there is one truth I want you to carry from this keynote, it is this: commitment is the secret to lasting happiness in a relationship. It is the choice to stay, to grow, to forgive, and to show up fully every single day. It is not passive or effortless. It is courageous, intentional, and active. It is the recognition that love is a practice, and that happiness in a relationship comes from the willingness to cultivate it continuously, even in the face of difficulty. Commitment is not a guarantee of perfection. It is a promise to love boldly, deeply, and without reservation. Because at the end of the day, relationships are not about avoiding challenges, finding perfection, or living without conflict. They are about two human beings who choose to engage fully, to support each other's growth, to embrace vulnerability, and to remain steadfast through the ups and downs of life. That is the heart of commitment. That is the foundation of a happy, enduring relationship. And when you embrace this truth, you step into a love that is not fleeting, not conditional, but unshakable. A love that thrives because both people have chosen to nurture it every single day. Happiness in a relationship is not about grand gestures or flawless romance. It's about the small acts of courage, the consistent practice of empathy, the honoring of boundaries, the daily acknowledgement of gratitude, and the willingness to grow together. When you embrace these secrets, you step into a love that is brave, tender, and unshakable. Remember this: love is not a possession, it is a practice. And every day, you have the chance to practice it more fully, more courageously, and more honestly. That is how relationships flourish. That is how happiness blooms.